It's World Teachers Day today. A challenging time, I think, to be a teacher right now with dramatically different classrooms and students with, shall we say, a lot of additional questions on their minds. We have a new feature we're running on All in a Day that allows kids in elementary or high school to pose any question burning in their brains these days, whether it's to do with COVID or comic books or pandemics or pandas, just whatever's on their mind. We are calling it, for lack of a better title, Tell Me Why. And today's question comes to us from Jeffrey Tate, who's in grade 3 at Glen Ogilvy Public School. He's 8. Hi there, Jeffrey.
Hi.
Welcome back. I know before we get to your question, there's a lot of changes this year. What are some of the big ones for you? I hear your desk is pretty different.
Yeah, my desk is a lot different. There's a desk seal that makes me feel like my own office.
A desk shield? So like you've got your own office, right? It's like, is it walls on all sides?
It's not on all sides. It's one side. It's two sides don't have a desk shield on, but two that do.
Okay. Is it hard to hear through it or anything?
I can hear pretty good through it.
Okay, that's good. But then, so you've got the shields on your desk, and then there are masks too, right?
Yeah, the masks are, you can't really tell when people are smiling.
Right. That would be huge. That would be a big difference. Of course it would, to know what people's expressions are, right? So do you like your masks? I
really like my masks.
No. What else don't you like about this year? I hear there's been a change for assemblies, right?
Yeah, there has. I haven't heard about any assemblies yet, but I don't think there will.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, I feel I'm okay with that, but we usually do have assemblies.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were a big fan of assemblies. I thought this was
I am.
Oh, you are? Okay. So it's a little bit of a bummer then to not have assemblies anymore. And what about, like, I mean, do you get to move around as much as you used to, or are you sitting more?
We are sitting a lot more.
Yeah.
Usually when we do, like, dances and stuff, we find a place in the classroom, but this time we just have to stay at our desks.
Okay, so a lot of sitting, not so much assemblies, the masks and the shit. Is there anything that's you're worried about? Anything that's scary for you right now?
There is, but it's not worrying me too much. It's that there was a case of COVID-19 in my school, so I'm worried about getting sick.
Oh, yeah. And I bet that must be a little bit scary all the time. Of course, I know you've got teachers and everybody who's doing their best to make sure everybody's following all the rules to make sure that doesn't happen. But I understand where you're coming from there, Jeffrey. It can be scary. Now, you had a Tell Me Why question, too. So what's your question? What do you want to know the why behind there, Jeffrey?
My question is, why do we have to stay 1 meter social distancing on schools but not 2 meters physical distancing everywhere else?
Okay, so in some places it's 2 meters and in some places it's 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so joining us now, Jeffrey, is a guy who knows all about this stuff because CBC keeps asking him questions. Raywat Deonandan, he's a scientist, he's a professor, and he's an epidemiologist. Do you know what an epidemiologist is, Jeffrey?
Not really.
Okay, Raywat is joining us now. Hi, Raywat.
How you doing? I don't even know what an epidemiologist is sometimes, so I don't blame you.
What would be the easiest way to explain to Jeffrey in grade 3 what an epidemiologist is?
Well, Jeffrey, we look at medicine, but we don't touch people or icky stuff. I never deal with blood samples or tissue or people, just numbers. So it's medicine using just numbers.
Just math. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, then you're the perfect person because Jeffrey's question is about math. He'd heard 2 meters was safe. Then it was 1 meters is safe when he's in school. And I get it. It's like, why do these things keep changing? What makes distance safe here, Raywat?
It's a good question, and a lot of people ask me this question. A lot of people around the world are really confused by this, and here's why. In China and Denmark and France, they recommend 1 meter. In Germany and Australia and Spain, they recommend 1.5 meters. In the USA, it's 1.8 meters. In Canada and the UK, it's 2 meters. So who's right? And the answer is nobody's right, and there isn't a magic. There isn't a magic cutoff. So let's go back a second and ask ourselves, why do we have this distance in the first place? It's because the main way that we think that people get COVID-19 or the flu or most other respiratory diseases is by these things called respiratory droplets. This is bits of fluid from inside our lungs that come out of our lungs when we talk or when we breathe or when we sneeze, and they go a certain distance and they land on somebody's face. And then you touch your face and then it gets in your mouth and your nose and suddenly you're infected. So the question is, how far do you have to be from someone before those droplets fall to the ground and not on your face? So back in the 30s, they did a lot of experiments, mostly on people with the flu, to see how far the droplets travel. And they figured out that, most of them fall within 1 meter. In fact, the World Health Organization published a study just earlier this year saying with COVID, they think that 80, 90, 95% of droplets will fall to the ground within 1 meter. That's why so many countries use 1 meter as their distance. But if you add another meter, 2 meters, like Canada does, then the risk goes down by another half. So maybe 99% of the droplets fall to the ground.
Right. There's even less of a chance that Jeffrey's germs or somebody else's germs would be going near somebody else.
Yeah, but it's not even that straightforward, because if you're sneezing or coughing, it goes further. If you're sitting in front of the air conditioner, maybe it goes further still. So if you're a kid, 8-year-old kid, and your lungs aren't as big as a 35-year-old man, and you're not shouting and you're not singing, your droplets are probably going 1 meter. So that's probably why it's safe to do so. None of these things is perfect, and the thing about public health is we don't have perfect controls. Mask wearing isn't perfect. Washing your hands isn't perfect. Distancing isn't perfect. But if you do all of these things most of the time, then we think most people will be well protected all the time.
I think what Jeffrey's question also is, Raywat, is the idea that outside the school, 2 meters, inside the school, 1 meter, or at least that's sort of the confusing thing. Is do things travel differently depending where we are? Would that be something that kids would be thinking about? Is how stuff travels depending on where we are?
Sure. So inside, they may travel a little further because there's things, the wind isn't moving it out of your way. But if you're not talking loudly, if you're not singing, if you're not sneezing, then within 1 meter it probably falls to the ground. If no one's directly in front of you, then it's less likely to be, hitting someone right in front of you. You're definitely not going to hit someone behind you or to the left or the right of you. So how you behave matters. And, also droplets come in different sizes. Some people have big lungs, some people have small lungs. It's a difficult question to answer, except to say that for most of the time, 1 meter is going to be fine, especially if you're not walking around, especially if there isn't a lot of people talking at once, especially if people are crowding in front of you, especially if you're not singing or shouting. So it's probably okay.
Is it hard keeping the 1 meter distance, Jeffrey, or how has it been for you keeping that distance from friends?
In the hallway, the 1 meter distance has been easy, but in the classroom, they have tiles that are about 1 foot, so we just have to eyeball it. But in the hallway, they have big tiles about 1 meter, which are easy to eyeball.
Right. So just knowing exactly that distance at all times is a little bit tricky too, that you've got to keep track of. Jeffrey, listen, thank you so much for the great question. I hope that the cool shielded desk continues and that maybe some of the other stuff that you're missing you'll get to do again. And Raywat, thank you so much for answering the question today. Did that make sense, Jeffrey?
Yeah, it did a lot.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
That's what I always say at the end of Raywat interviews, too. That made sense a lot. Exactly. Jeffrey, thank you for this. Thanks for asking the question. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist and professor at U of O. He was answering the question of grade 3 Jeffrey Tate about why it makes a difference whether you're 1 meter or 2 meters apart during COVID. And if you have a Tell Me Why question, if you're a kid in high school or elementary school and you want to let me know, it can be about COVID or not, just anything that's burning in your brain right now, all in a day at cbc.ca.